This week on Head to Head, the Rise of Skywalker versus Avengers Endgame.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. So speaking of Avengers Endgame, I saw the movie. I know you did too.
Yes, sir.
So what'd you think?
Awesome. I still think Infinity Wars was a better movie.
I do too.
But Endgame was really, really well done.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where, for me, I thought that Infinity Wars was a better movie, but I think that Endgame was a more fun movie. Like, I thought it was more of a fun, just, entertaining, really cool movie to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I think it had, but it hit all the notes. It hit all the notes and all the beats that it needed to hit, and that's what made it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it functioned as well as a movie. Mm-hmm. Like Infinity Wars did. But, I mean, it was great. I thought that the way they handled everything was really cool. I'd actually be interested to know from you guys, because it's been a minute. I haven't really read the whole Infinity Wars story arc in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, how closely they followed the comic. I know there was a lot of things that the comic had that they did actually hit, but I know they also... had to vary the story a little bit.
But,
well, I mean, we just got to see a really good movie. Let's go head to the Cantina and
talk about some Star Wars.
Talks about some Star Wars. All right, what's our first little topic on the Cantina roster today?
All right, man. So, of the sequel trilogy so far, what has been your favorite moment?
Oh, that's so, there's so many to choose from, but I still say it's when Han and Chewie run up into the Falcon and say, Chewie, we're home. I mean, that's just such a chill-inducing moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know the right word I want to use for it, but it was definitely one of those, I guess maybe serendipitous, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was a moment where it was seeing Harrison Ford fully embracing the Han Solo character again. It was actually seeing, where Han Solo has been all this time and what he's doing, and it's continuing that story, because up until the sequel trilogy, we really didn't get to see, I mean, other than, we had the expanded universe, which is now Legends, to tell us. Obviously, they went a different way, but, to tell us, okay, here's what happened to all these characters that you love. But to actually see these actors come back and putting on, I mean, it just gave me chills just to see Harrison Ford wearing the Han Solo outfit again.
Right.
It's just something I never thought I would see. And because of that, the whole time he was on screen in The Force Awakens, I was just in this whole moment of like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. I can't believe I'm seeing this. And that was, I think, of all the moments that Han Solo had in the film, other than him mentioning, things like, oh, he's got too much Vader in him, and talking about the Death Star or...
Odes to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
That's what we always do. This.
Or especially, like, when he was kind of like, the Jedi, the Force, it's all true, and he's basically alluding to the fact that this thing that he once thought was a joke is actually...
Yeah.
And just to hear him uttering lines like Jedi and Vader and Death Star again, just, I don't know. It just brought back this overwhelming sense of nostalgia. But I also thought that he did a really good job in two things. Number one, recapturing the Han Solo humor.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of like that whole line, that's not how the Force works.
Yeah.
That was like the best.
Yeah.
And then just like a lot of just the way that he recaptured the whole character of Han Solo after all those years, I thought was great.
Yeah, it's like he still got it.
But I mean, it's just kind of like there's so many. I have to say that's probably the one that hit the most emotional, I guess, trigger for me. But I mean, there's just so many moments in the sequel trilogy so far that. But I'll go with that one as my favorite.
Okay. I think for me would be the palace scene with Kylo Ren and Snoke.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
would actually probably be my second favorite.
That was my favorite because I didn't see that coming.
No.
Just that whole thing of him talking it out, but then he's manipulating the lightsaber. Then, it was just like, whoa, okay.
That was a great moment. I mean, that was definitely something that, it was well written. It was unexpected. I mean, I could even say maybe third would probably be the whole Yoda Luke moment.
Yeah, that would be my other moment. Yeah. That's my number 2, actually. Is whenever Yoda appears, it's like, shh, the master is talking, shut up. But
I mean, it was just really cool to see that interplay between Yoda and Luke, but now Luke being this like Jedi Grandmaster, basically.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
To see them interacting with him now, having that much experience, I think was a really cool moment. But what about you guys? What was your favorite moment in the sequel trilogy thus far? Our good friend Jamie from our last Clear Your Mind would probably say none of it. But,
none of it, right.
But I know you guys got something. So what was your favorite moment? Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at headtoheadsw, and or leave a comment in the YouTube comment section.
All right, man. So do you have any predictions? Because, you and I are both huge Clone Wars fans.
Absolutely.
So Clone Wars is returning for 12 episodes?
Yep.
So, and this is the way that Filoni actually wanted to end it.
I know. And I've been thinking about this the whole time, too.
So, it's like, any predictions you have for this one?
Well, it's tough because on one hand, the way that it was ended, while you could tell it wasn't exactly what he wanted, it's really difficult to say because the season 6 that came out was actually cobbled together with a bunch of, there was some finished episodes, and then they added some stuff and they moved some stuff around. And then, of course, there were some scripts that were supposed to be done, most notably the Dark Disciples script, which turned into obviously the novel, and started out as a Clone Wars segment.
Yeah.
Or
episode, yeah.
Episode, yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of weird in a way because I don't really know. Now, I mean, I'm watching the trailer. I've seen the 2 trailers for the Clone Wars series that are coming up, and I would have to say that I think we're going to see a little bit more about Ahsoka and how she maybe starts to sow the seeds of the rebellion a little bit because, obviously part of this is Ahsoka integrating into just a normal life and being tempted maybe to use her powers, but not being able to. Almost like what we see in the Fallen Order stuff. So, I mean, but it's really hard to actually predict where it's going to end, though.
Yeah. I mean, because it's got to lead up right up against 3.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, all right, well, how do we...
I would actually, if I could, maybe not a prediction, but a wish.
Okay, we'll go.
I would like to see them do something similar to what they did in that little... Remember when they released all those little 5-minute or 2-minute Clone Wars episodes? What actually predated the series when it was more of an anime style?
Right.
What I thought was brilliant was they ended that with the first scene of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that. Okay. I'd like to see them maybe end the Clone Wars either right before or start incorporating Revenge of the Sith.
Okay. I think for me, I just want to see Ahsoka become more powerful.
I don't think we're going to see that. I mean, I think we're going to see the fact that she's obviously maturing and it's going to, because, we talked about this on the panel review that one of the things that Ashley Eckstein had to do was to go back.
Yeah.
Because she was used to playing the Rebels version now of Ahsoka, and now she has to go back and
do a younger.
Yeah, almost more naive or at least less experienced version.
All right.
So what we might see is her
that shift.
Yeah, that shift and her getting into that. But I don't necessarily, I mean, who knows? It depends on, what kind of situation she gets in. But I don't think we're going to necessarily see anything where she's demonstrating more power necessarily.
Okay.
But, I mean, she was pretty skilled, actually, even by the end of season 5.
True.
So, we'll have to see.
All right. So, is it Fallen Order or Fallen Jedi? I keep getting those. I think it's Fallen Order.
Yeah, it's Jedi.
It's Jedi
Fallen
Order. That's what it is. That's what's confusing me. Okay. Jedi Fallen Order. So we know that's the video game.
Right.
And I love the story.
Oh, the story is great. The story is actually what we've been wanting for a while.
Yeah. So do you think that you would rather see it in the television series that something will be on like Disney Plus, or would you just rather play it on the game?
Well, I can actually see a case for both. I mean, obviously, it makes a great game type of a plot. And that's the problem that's been happening a lot of times, too, is that, they always try to make movies out of games.
True.
And now there's some people who think that, like, none of the movies that were based on video games are any good. I don't really share that opinion. I actually liked a lot. Like, I'll tell you, one that surprised me was Warhammer.
Okay.
I loved that movie. I thought that was just phenomenal. And there's probably people out there that are like, are you insane? That was terrible. But I mean, I did. I really liked it. Now, I mean, I get why a lot of people didn't like the Assassin's Creed movie.
You're right.
I didn't think that it was as good as it could have been. Like, I don't think it lived up to its potential, but I don't think it was bad. The new Lara Croft movie, I actually thought that was pretty good. It wasn't
Hitman, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter.
Hitman was actually okay. I thought that was a much better movie than I expected it to be. But again, a lot of those movies I wouldn't necessarily qualify as like good, like Oscar-winning films or anything, but they were entertaining and they were well done and they did their job. So from that standpoint, the difference, though, is that the Fallen Order storyline, though, is something that fans have just wanted to see. And I don't think it would be fair to only put that wonderful story in a video game. I think it deserves its own series. I think you're right. I think Disney Plus would be the perfect thing. Like, okay, you're going to have The Mandalorian, then you're going to have Cassian. Let's see this as a series. Yeah, I think for me, I would rather see this as a series than a video game, just simply because of the time period in which it's taken. And it's so unexplored. I mean, unless you go through the books, and things of that nature. But I mean, like, if you're actually talking about this visually speaking, I would love to see this. Especially, this would be a great way if you wanted to do somewhat of a quote unquote Vader centric, not centric, but a Vader heavy, maybe, series, because then you can show a lot of what the Empire is doing and how he's going about trying to continue the Jedi purge and everything. And then you got this kid who's, he's trying to remain in hiding and he's freaked out, and he's trying to live a normal life without using his abilities and, because he knows if he does, he'll pop up on people's radar. And, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of challenges. It's like, do you, sometimes you do the right thing and it's to the detriment of yourself. And, it's, you can actually explore a lot of, humanity based issues.
Oh, yeah.
In a storyline like that. So, I mean, I think that just for a number of reasons, it would be really cool to see that. I mean, I guess as an honorable mention, maybe a movie. But the only problem with doing it as a movie is it's too finite. I mean, you can go so many places
with a series.
With that story.
Yeah.
And so you almost need a TV series to do it.
Absolutely.
But what about you guys? You think that are you satisfied with just it being a story in a game, or would you guys like to see it be a movie? Maybe do you agree with us? TV series? Let us know at Head to Head SW on Facebook or Twitter. Love to hear from you. Leave a comment in the comment section on our YouTube channel. Love to hear from you guys.
Come on down.
That's right. All right. Well, what do we got on our next segment?
We have Duel of the Fates. All right, so this week, I'm going to challenge you
I guess you got this whole like let's ready to rumble.
It's not quite Michael Buffer, but
Yeah,
I'm working.
You're introducing this a little differently. What, after 35 episodes, are you bored? You want to change it up? All right.
Yeah, why not? So the Galactic Empire versus the First Order. Which would you?
The Empire.
most? Oh, dang.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. I mean, the First Order to me, it just. I'm not going to say they're a joke, but yeah, I don't think that they just don't have the same menace that the Empire has to me. And a lot of that has to do with the leadership.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got Vader.
Was Snoke powerful? Yeah, Snoke is very powerful, and Snoke is kind of cunning. But, when you look at Snoke, to me, Vader would slice that guy up. Mm-hmm. And the Emperor would definitely just
decimate,
completely obliterate Snoke. There's just no way that anybody can convince me that Snoke can. Yeah, I know somebody will be like, oh, but we saw, Snoke do this or that or the other. It's like, I don't care. When you talk about, power in the Force and things like that, you're just not going to beat Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader or the Emperor. And then, you got Hux versus a guy like Tarkin or Thrawn. I mean, come on. It's like there's just nobody in the leadership of the First Order. I will say this, though. The First Order troopers are a lot more devastating than the stormtroopers.
Okay, because that's where I was going next. Like,
that I will give them. But again, the stormtroopers did a lot of damage too. I mean, because if you look beyond the movies, then you begin to see it. I mean, the line that always kills me in the movies is when Obi-Wan's going to Luke and look at these blasts. They're
way too accurate.
Yeah, they're only stormtroopers could be so precise or something like that, and it's like, when do we see that? Maybe
he's still thinking about the Clone War troopers.
Yeah, the clone troopers. Now, see, the clone troopers, now those guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, the First Order also seemed like they were still just like starting out. Like they were starting their reign. They never really felt complete to me, whereas the Empire actually already controlled the universe when we meet them.
Right.
Like when you first see them.
The last remnants of the Old Republic.
Yeah, now, granted, if you start with Episode 1, you're seeing the building of it. But don't forget that the Empire was the Republic. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, once they built the Grand Clone Army, I mean, and that's another thing, right? So you look at the Republic's army, which they build in Episode 2. All right. Well, by the end, they were already a huge fighting force. Mm-hmm. On that last scene, when you're seeing all these Star Destroyers and, clone troopers marching, and it's like, man, you just put that out there like immediately. The First Order never really seems to just be that overwhelming of a force.
Well, I think the only thing is, I will say that the First Order, I agree with you, has better troopers, in my opinion. And they have a more devastating weapon.
Well, all right.
Starkiller Base. Now, the one thing I can say is that, see, the difference between the Empire and the Death Star, I should say, and Starkiller Base is that, the Death Star can move.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
that's the thing. It's like it can actually travel.
I don't understand Starkiller Base in a lot of things. See, again, that's one of the weaknesses of the sequel trilogy. They never fully flesh that out. It's like, what is its range? Okay, it shoots across the galaxy and it hits those 5 planets, but it's like, okay, what's the limitations of that? Can it go anywhere and do it, or because like you said, it doesn't move. The Death Star moves.
Yeah, the Death Star actually travels through hyperspace. It
has its own power. It doesn't have to drain power from a nearby star.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, it's, even if you do make the argument that Starkiller Base is more powerful,
It's not as versatile.
It's far more limited.
Yeah, it's just not as versatile as the Death Star.
Well, it's not only that, but because, it has to drain that star. And then once it does that, it takes a long time to be able to recharge it.
Mm-hmm.
Death Star doesn't take that long to recharge.
I think it's fires off.
That's right. So, and like you said, it can move anywhere.
Yep.
I actually think the Death Star is more threatening.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I would probably go with the Galactic Empire as well, just based upon the leadership, and just the overall presence that they can have and the hold they can have over, many galaxies. One of the things that I love was that scene in Rogue One where Krennic, he's like he's on Scarif, man, and he looks up.
Yeah,
and it's like
Death Star,
but it's the ominous sound like that you hear like of the Death Star just slowly moving in. He knows like, oh crap, like
it's over.
Yeah, it's over. It's like it's nothing I can do about this.
Yeah, and you can't escape from it. And it's so it just when you just look at the overall, and that's the other thing too, is that the overall forces. Granted, you did see it, but if you just if you want to just go like for two movies, right? So the first two, Star Wars and Empire versus Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
Mm.
Look at how powerful the Empire is in their first two movies in comparison to, the First Order.
Not only that, but if we were talking about Troopers earlier, and we haven't seen it yet, but the Galactic Empire had troopers for everything. They had snow troopers, scout troopers. They had death troopers. They've had, they have all these different types of troopers for different situations.
Well, and they got a lot of resources, too. I think is what you're saying, too. Okay, fine. We get the First Order does have guerrilla walkers or whatever, and that's kind of cool. But, think about this. They're in The Last Jedi. They're in this whole, Hux even makes an almost breaking the fourth wall comment in a sense because he's almost talking to the audience in stating what the audience is thinking, like, okay, we've got all this. Why can't we just, and that's the thing. It's like, can you imagine? It's like you got all these ships that are basically running out of fuel and you can't just catch them and shoot them.
Right.
That was one of the dumbest things that kept bringing me out of The Last Jedi. It's like, I don't understand this. This would not be a problem for the Empire.
No.
And that's, if you want to keep it like in universe, you have to look at that. You have to look at the fact that obviously the resources of the First Order did not match the resources of the Empire.
Right.
And so for that reason, I'm out, as they would say in Shark Tank. For that reason, I have to give it to the Galactic Empire.
All right.
So let's move on to our featured topic. What do we got?
Our featured topic is...
Well, let's say the title of it first.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm so anxious.
I know.
From a certain point of view. All right. Now we can get to it.
Yeah, there you go. Now we got it.
So what would the Rise of Skywalker have to do in order to topple or beat Avengers Endgame?
So now we're going, last week we were talking about the box office performance, right? So now are we dealing with story here, or what were you thinking?
We're talking about story. Box office could be included in it, but I'm mainly talking about the story.
Okay. Well, so like what we were talking about Avengers Endgame last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that we talked about that we liked was, even though we both agreed that Infinity Wars is a better movie, we really enjoyed Endgame, and we thought that it gave everybody a satisfying conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that the Star Wars franchise is actually more beloved than even the comic books upon which Marvel's based, the Marvel movies are based. So there's just something about the characters of Star Wars that people just seem really super attached to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if you gave them an ultra satisfying conclusion and you wrap up this just monumental franchise with a really superb conclusion, I think that would be enough to do it.
Okay. I think we've said this before on numerous occasions that it has to hit certain beats, and there's things that you have to, look at and definitely tie up those loose ends. But I think you got to give us like some major action. I think that's what's been lacking.
That's one of the things. Yeah, I agree. That's been missing
because we haven't had a space battle. We haven't had a true, real lightsaber duel.
I mean,
it's kind of
you've
like
actually had more action and more all that from like Rogue One.
Exactly. And that's my point is that like
even Solo,
and that's, with Force Awakens, okay, you have some cool, some cool stuff where, when the Resistance showed up and, bailed them out in front of Maz's castle and whatnot. But I mean, you never really got any really true space battle. Even the one where they had when they at the beginning of Last Jedi when they went against the Dreadnought, like that wasn't truly a space. But I mean, it kind of was, but it really wasn't. It was kind of like one of those
weird.
It was more like a little mission, more so than just a full out like okay.
I'd say it was more like a skirmish than an all out battle.
Battle. And so we have.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me though, I'll be honest, this is probably sacrilege, but I'm kind of tired of the space battles. I'm over them. I don't need to see any space battle. I mean, I get it, it's called Star Wars, but I don't need to see the whole aerial space battles. I mean, I actually thought that's why I loved Rogue One so much, because it was an actual in-atmosphere battle. That was a little bit bigger than the in-atmosphere battle they had in The Force Awakens, because they had one in The Force Awakens, too. But it was
it was closer to more so like an advanced version of Endor almost.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, and that's the thing. It's like Rogue One had that whole like beach thing, and it was like. But
they had multiple battles. That was
exactly.
I mean, you had you had the you had Scarif, which was like the main one, but then you had Edu. That was like a little one.
Yeah, it's true. There was a little one there,
and then of course you had somewhat of a one on Jeddah when they were in the kind of the streets of Jeddah, basically. So you kind of had
and that's the thing.
Stuff going on like all over the place.
And that's the thing. I really love. That's one of the reasons why, honestly, one of my favorite battles is the old Battle of Hoth. Mm-hmm. It's more of a ground battle.
Right.
They don't do that much in Star Wars, and to me that's more interesting. And seeing the same choreographed like shots of, X-Wings and TIE fighters, and it's just kind of like it's been done to death. Mm-hmm. It's like I don't really necessarily need to see an epic space battle in Episode 9. On the other hand, I mean, I suppose that if you're going to end the whole saga, and it's been kind of based on that, you probably do have to include something along those lines.
Well,
but
yeah, and even if they did more of a... See, I thought what was cool about Revenge of the Sith was cool is because they showed you a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. Because it started off with a whole space battle.
That's actually my favorite space battle.
The Revenge of the Sith?
That space battle was insane.
Yeah, that was crazy. Especially how they like brought you into it. Like how they started way far out.
Exactly.
And then they zoomed in and just like, whoa.
Yeah, and just the way that they were following a lot of the ships around. That was an exciting battle.
Yeah. So
they do something like that, I'd be down for it.
But then, like, of course, like when they had the whole Order 66 thing and you saw like on different planets what was going on.
That was cool. They did something like that.
Kashyyyk, you had that whole battle there. You had
and that's what there you go. That's what they need to do. It's almost the same kind of thing, because if you think about it, Revenge of the Sith was bringing an end to the old Republic. It was definitely showing like, hey, this Republic that it's done. It's over. Right? And they needed to show you the magnitude of that.
Right.
Which they did. And that's now that this whole saga is coming to an end, they need to show us an epic battle that takes place, on multiple fronts. Actually, very much like mirroring Revenge of the Sith, I think.
Yeah, well, see, I think that might be what's being geared up, because I think probably what's going to have to happen in 9 is that, Leia's probably going to try to figure out like, okay, why didn't anyone answer our call when we asked for help?
Yeah, exactly.
And then she's going to have to rally those troops. And I think it's going to take
Don't
place.
tell me your phone wasn't working or your battery wasn't charged.
I was taking a nap, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, now you have, all these different planets who are like, okay, look, if we don't stand up against the First Order, we don't have enough in the Resistance. It's not like how the old, Guard was, so we need everybody on deck basically to kind of help us win this thing. And then I think that's what's going to have to happen.
Well, unless a bigger threat happens, though. See, I would agree if things basically stayed the way they were on The Last Jedi, I would say, yeah, you're right. But, they're teasing us with the whole Palpatine thing, and we know that something more evil than Kylo Ren is probably going to be the main villain in The Rise of Skywalker. So I guess it would depend on who that main villain is and how that all shakes out. Because right now, to be honest, it's kind of like I was saying in Duel of the Fates. First Order doesn't really seem to be all that
threatening.
Yeah, because they don't seem to be all that. They're almost like, they're rising themselves. Like they're not quite the established authority because you still had the Republic, the New Republic. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, okay.
Well, I think
they wiped out the governing planet and all, but
well, I think that's what they're trying to do, though. I think that's their whole thing is that they're trying to establish themselves, and that's what I kind of get out of the sequel is that the Force Awakens, okay, is kind of like all right, the awakening in the Force with Rey, but then also you got Kylo trying to rise up in the dark side, and then you have Snoke who's trying to like become the new Emperor almost. And he's trying to like command this whole First Order and, kind of do it in that realm. So I think they're trying. I think with the Resistance is basically like, look, we've seen this before. We got to stop it before it gets big.
Yeah, the Republic's saying, oh, we don't need this or whatever. And the Resistance is like, no, we need to. Exactly. But here's my problem, though. The thing is that when you see the Empire, they are the ruling, force, I guess, in the universe. So, I mean, the First Order isn't there yet.
No.
So, I mean, they're not
quite. Yeah, they're not quite there, but they're very close. And I think that's what scares Leia, is that she's seen this before and she's like, look, if we don't stop this,
But see, a lot of it depends on Palpatine. And if he truly does show up, obviously it's part of a bigger plan that nobody, including us, the audience, really realized. It's like, oh, okay. And that would make sense because, like I said, it would tie in the entire saga.
Right.
The entire Skywalker saga. I'm sorry.
Jab.
Ouch.
Stick a move, man.
Stick a move. Knife.
But yeah, I think that in order for them to really contend with Avengers, you have to have that thing.
Yeah,
you also have to have some.
We did get off on a little bit of a tangent, didn't we?
Well, I mean, it's yes and no, but I think it's really going to have to.
Well, but that's how the Avengers actually did it, right? They created, if you think about it, like going back to the first, if you just look at the Avengers trilogy.
I mean, it all led up to Thanos.
Exactly. It led up to Thanos. I mean, Thanos was appearing in the early Thor movies. He was like around even in some of the earlier Avengers, the standalone films.
Yeah.
And then they're building it up, and then the Avengers forming in the first one, and it's kind of an uneasy alliance. But then they go, yeah, we need to form this team, and then it keeps going and going. It builds up,
yeah.
And that's the thing. Star Wars has not done what they could have done as well,
right?
And that's the problem. I think that's the reason why everybody is so mad about the way The Last Jedi and everything is that there's so much potential in what Star Wars could have done. Yeah. They could have done it a lot better than Marvel, actually.
True.
It was set up that way.
And the thing is that's kind of like sucks for people is that like you're dealing with, the thing with Marvel is that they had time as far as with their actors.
Yeah.
Like you have Robert Downey Jr. He's like really the oldest one out of everybody for the most part.
Yeah.
So everybody else, you have them for a while. But the thing is, like when you're rebooting the series, well, not rebooting the series, but when you're adding to the series of Force Awakens, Last Jedi, okay, you're bringing back these characters who are like all in their 70s, So you got like
now they're all
and then now they're dying.
Passing away.
Yeah, now they're passing away now.
Carrie Fisher goes. Now Peter Mayhew's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
Kenny Baker's gone.
Yeah, so at this point, you have to make use of why you have these iconic actors who've created these characters that the Star Wars franchise is basically built on.
You better hurry up.
Yeah, you make it count, And I think that's why everybody was so frustrated with the whole Luke thing.
Absolutely.
It's because they didn't make, it's like, okay, we got him one more, like, we don't know how many, tomorrow Mark Hamill died. We don't know, heaven forbid. But it's like, let's get it out while we can. And that's why I even said, like, if they're going to do anything with Vader, you better do it now while James Earl Jones is still living.
You better get that man to say every consonant, every vowel,
everything. Have him read the dictionary to you.
Yeah, so that you could just use his voice and just put together any words you want him to say or something. Because, I mean, he's up there. Same thing with John Williams. He's up there too. I mean,
that's why this is his last one. And I'm glad at least he's completing the Skywalker saga.
No, he hasn't written the music yet, has he?
Well, yeah, he's got to, because the movie's done.
Yeah, but usually the film scores are like the last. It always surprises me. I mean, it may be written, but it's not recorded yet, because they always go in like on almost like the last edits and stuff, and you're just like, really? That's kind of late, but okay.
But
better be good.
Yeah, well, it's John Williams. I mean,
well, yeah.
Even if he dropped the ball for this one, it's like, will we really notice?
It's true.
But the thing is, like, with Endgame, I think they got you with everything that they needed to do that made Marvel movies.
Well, and that's it, because they'd done it right. They had a plan. And they actually even had multiple phases. And
I'm just talking about the formula. Like, okay, you got to have Marvel has this type of comedy, right. It has this type of action, and but
the other plays into it too, because for all the things that you said, right, about how you have these characters only for a certain amount of time, they're all older, they could pass away, you drop the ball. A lot of it is because there was a plan that was even broken up into phases. But the difference is Marvel actually told the audience about the plan. Mm-hmm. Hey, guys, we're doing these multiple phases. Okay, this Avengers movie is coming out. That's the end of phase 1. And now we're moving into phase 2. And it's going to consist of these movies. And, I mean, we get to know that.
Right.
If Star Wars, number 1, had actually come up with a plan, it would have been nice.
Right.
But on top of that, it's like, and then share it with the audience, I mean, some of the secrecy is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, like plots and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think that Star Wars a lot of times just gets so hung up on the secrecy. It's like, no, share this stuff with your fans. We're the ones paying the money to see all this stuff.
And we probably can prevent you from doing something we don't like.
Exactly.
Like, no, that's stupid.
And I don't necessarily think that, because fan service goes both ways.
True.
There's always a fan service of, shoehorn this character in here because we would love it. But then there's also like, hey, just because sometimes fans don't like something doesn't mean that you should just listen all the time. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's also, the movies are pushed by fan demand.
Yeah.
So if the fans really are all wanting something, then I think some catering to it, or fan service, if you want to call it that, would be okay. George Lucas kind of knew how to balance it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I just think that what the Rise of Skywalker has to do, and I think that we're in agreement on this too, is that they just have to hit the satisfying story beats. They have to tie this thing up in a way that makes us go, wow, what a great conclusion to this saga.
Yeah.
That's what has to happen. I mean, even beyond, it's like, oh, well, we got to see like a purple lightsaber or something, just stuff like that. I mean, beyond any of that stuff, I think what we need is a really good story. We need something that actually wraps up the entire saga in a way that satisfies most of the people.
Think it's going to be 3 hours?
Well, that's another thing that they should do. Another thing that always bothers me about the Star Wars thing is I don't think that they actually make the movies as long as they need to make them.
Mm-hmm.
They're hung up on this. It can't be over 2 hours and 20 minutes or something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really do think 9 has to be 3 hours.
Yeah, I think it does too. Especially if you're trying to wrap up like all these films.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that like, you know, they were talking about Endgame was that this has been 10 to 12 years in the making. Like since the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
Since 2008, you know, when Iron Man first came, like they had to get to this point. So it had to culminate, you know, here. And, you know, for those who still have yet to see Endgame, I'm not revealing anything. But when you do see it, or if you have seen, you know what I'm talking about. It's like it everything kind of came to a point where it's like, wow, this is finally the conclusion of this group, you know, and you get it. It makes sense. And I think that's what has to happen with here. And I think that if they pass the torch the right way, if you actually give us what we need, what makes Star Wars, what we all fell in love with the character development, the action, the planets, the characters. I mean, when I say characters, I mean like the actual like creatures, I guess to say.
Yeah.
But those characters, yeah, it just has to end that way, and then we can move on.
Yeah, and it's another thing too that they can, you know, give us a satisfying conclusion to the overall Skywalker story arc that they started. Because I mean, yeah, you bring up, you know, Iron Man and all that. Okay, that was, you know, what, 12 years in the making? Mm-hmm. And this is like 40 years in the making?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, the Star Wars story has just been with us longer. I mean, yeah, okay, Marvel comics have been around forever. I used to collect them when I was a kid, even before seeing Star Wars. But when you're talking about this series of movies, so the Marvel movies versus the Star Wars movies, then yeah, this Star Wars has been around. It's been with us longer.
Yeah.
You know, we need to actually get a satisfying conclusion. Something that wraps up that story arc and maybe sets up something with some of the newer characters or even some of the original ones. But the point is that it really needs to hit those beats. All right, well, what about you guys? What do you guys think? What do you guys think that the Rise of Skywalker would have to do to either match or exceed the expectations of its fan base, much like what Avengers Endgame seems to have done? Let us know at head-to-head-SW on Facebook or Twitter. Maybe drop a really cool meme on Instagram. You know, leave your thoughts in the comments section on our YouTube channel, Eric Vansel Media. And, you know, let us know what's up. So now it's time for one of my favorite segments, which we lovingly call Clear Your Mind. All right, this is where we answer your submitted questions. So who do we have first?
We have Lee Turi. And Lee asks, what's the holdup on information about the Cassian series? What are your thoughts on what the show might be about?
Well, the holdup, quite simply, is the fact that they, you know, have this little thing called The Rise of Skywalker and The Mandalorian and Galaxy's Edge, you know, which I think that they're trying to concentrate on first. And if they start to promote the Cassian series too much, it's going to start to split the attention of the fan base. You know, anybody in marketing will tell you, you got to be really focused on it. And the problem is that these movies are coming out too close. Another reason why they're holding off on the marketing of the Cassian series is because the Cassian series is still quite a ways away from being done. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even have enough for a good trailer right now. So, you know, that's still being developed, but it'll come out, I'm sure, I think sometime in 2020. I don't actually remember. Did they actually put a timetable on that or no?
Not yet.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
You know, and then, of course, my thoughts, at least on what the show might be about, I think it's going to be more, if you really wanted to choose a scene, there's that one scene, of course, in Rogue One where he's talking to that informant and then he ends up shooting him. Mm-hmm. And it's basically showing us, yeah, you know what? The rebellion kind of had their hands dirty too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it wasn't all white coats and
roses and tulips.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had to use some methods that were a little
unconventional,
a little less than the high moral ground. And I think that that's what Cassian's going to explore. I think it's going to explore what it's really like to be an agent in the rebellion and how, you know, their methods weren't exactly the best either. I also think that it's going to show how Cassian used to be a separatist, and you're going to tie a little bit of the prequel era into that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. Is that's what the show's going to be about. I think it's going to show you, you know, the espionage is it's kind of more of like an espionage type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Little James Bond, Mission
Cloak
Impossible,
and dagger type
probably.
stuff. Like, you know, he's going to have I think you're going to see a lot of betrayal. I think you're going to see a lot of different dramatic things in the Cassian Cassian series. Just simple because, you know, when your back is up against the wall, you know, you can't always fight cleanly. You know, sometimes it's basically for survival, and you have to take measures that you may have not normally used to achieve the goal. And that's what the thing is. Like, I ultimately have to achieve this goal, because if I don't, it could mean detriment for not just myself, but millions of other people. So you just got to do what you got to do. And I think that's kind of on the almost like a flip side of the Mandalorian in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah, it's like the other side of the Mandalorian almost. So,
and I think it actually has the potential to be every bit as good.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. And I think because I don't think they've even named a director or anything yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I mean, like, I think but the thing I think why they have the hold up too is just that I think they're trying to get it right, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm all about that. It's like, you know what? While I like having Star Wars stuff like every 5 minutes, it's like if it means that I have to wait a little longer to get better stuff, so be it. All right, what do we got next?
All right, the next question comes from Marlon Roberts. Marlon asks, how do you think Hux will fare in Rise of Skywalker with the Emperor possibly returning to replace Snoke?
He'll say, get this stunted slime out of my sight. You know, it's a good question, actually, because I don't know how much the Emperor's really going to have. First of all, we don't really know if he's going to truly be alive or not, right? I mean, This could be a variety of different forms that he could take. Mm-hmm. But let's just say, in the spirit of this question, that he's full resurrection, you know, and he's embodied in some new body or whatever. Or like he cloned himself, or, you know, however he does it. I don't really think he's going to have that much contact with Hux. You know, I don't honestly think, I mean, in a way, you would almost think he would, because the way that they set it up in The Force Awakens anyway, it's almost like, okay, Hux was more directly in control of the army, the military part.
Right.
You know, and then Kylo was more... You know,
he's the
like
Vader. Well, Hux is the Tarkin, and Kylo's the Vader. Basically.
Right, exactly. Kind of a thing like that. But, you know, I just don't think that, because now, especially that Kylo's more or less taken on everything, he's kind of like the Vader of Empire Strikes Back now. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, did the Emperor really... Now, granted, it's true. If you go into, like, the novels and the comics and all that, he does actually have a lot of dealings with the military commanders. Mm-hmm. But if you're just going strictly by the movies, you know, it's not like the Emperor was like, you know, talking to Admiral Veers or something, you know, or any of these other guys, even though, you know, he did. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think, you know, and honestly, Hux will suck up to him like he did to Snoke.
That's what I was saying. I think that's what I would love to see, because, see, I think Palpatine would be, he that doesn't faze him. Like, I think Snoke likes people kissing his butt, but Palpatine, especially at this point, like, if he feels like everything that he kind of set up failed,
Yeah, really.
He's
like,
trying to clean house, man.
So this guy really is who you're putting in charge.
Right. And I think, you know.
But then again, you got to look at it this way. Now, of course, you don't know this if you haven't really read the canon novels, but, Hux's dad, I mean, he was pretty well known to Palpatine, so there could be like a whole thing like, okay, it's like,
you're his kid.
I'll honor it. I'll deal with it.
Play along almost.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, because again, we really don't even know the story. It's really hard to even speculate on this because we don't know. We don't know what form he's going to take. We don't know how limited. It could be one of those things that he's kind of projected in a room somewhere, and you have to go to that to see it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it could be just a big thing where he has his whole plan in case this happens, and Kylo finds it, and he just basically gets the instructions like, okay, this is how you regain control.
What would actually be hilarious is that if Hux kind of knew about the Emperor's plan, and Hux was the one that once Snoke was gone, and now that Kylo's like going a little crazy and now he feels threatened, he's the one that reactivates, somehow gets the Emperor back.
Yeah, like we need someone who's...
Yeah, like I gotta get somebody... That would actually be
sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That if Hux is the one that actually initiates the whole Emperor coming back somehow...
See, we just need to quit our jobs and just go work at Disney and Lucasfilm.
I'd be all right with that. Even though my job is where we're actually doing this podcast. But hey... Small price to pay. Disney has better studios, right?
Indeed.
Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this show and found all of our comments and everything insightful as usual. We love hearing from you guys. Hit us up at Head to Head SW on Facebook and Twitter. Drop us an email, Star Wars at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Hit us up on our Instagram. We're building that, trying to add more and more pictures to that. A lot of you guys are actually following us on Instagram, and we appreciate that. But anyway, leave a comment on our YouTube channel, Eric Vansel Media. You can see all of our episodes there, and you can certainly comment. And please submit your questions. Give us ideas on upcoming show topics that you guys might want us to cover.
Yep. Questions, anything.
Yeah, anything. We love discussing Star Wars. All right, well, that's going to do it for our show this week. I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.